All right, Arnold County Court now in session. Honorable Lonnie Taylor presiding.
Would you guys please, we'd like to ask Bubba Gregory to lead our invocation, please.
Do what is bow. Father in heaven, thank you for another beautiful day you blessed us with. I just pray that you watch over us, lead, guide, and direct us tonight. I just pray that all the decisions we make will be pleasing to you and your sight. And I pray all decisions we make tonight will be for the betterment of all the citizens of this county. I just pray for the ones that are battling sickness. I just pray that you comfort them. And I just pray that you watch over us the rest of this meeting and get all of us safe trips home. And this ask this in your son's name. Amen.
Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance of our country's flag? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for being here tonight. I want to especially thank Bubba Gregory for covering work session. I got called out of town at the last minute, and I do appreciate that. So at this time, if we could get Ms. Crowder to call our roll call.
Beverly Atwood. Present. Tommy Melcher.
Here.
Shane Burton.
Here.
Alan Harmon. Here. Grant Cochran. Brian Crook. Here. Will Dennis.
Here.
Jerry Ford.
Here.
Chris Gregory.
Here.
Bubba Gregory.
Here.
Landon Dudley.
Present.
Judy Kerr. Here. David Nollner.
Here.
Leslie Overman. Here. Mark Presley.
Here.
Amber Russell. Here. Lonnie Taylor.
Here.
David Thomas.
Here.
Steve Whitaker.
Here.
18 present and last.
Thank you. So at this time, we'd like to seek approval for our minutes from the meeting dated September 23, 2024. You have a copy of those with you, and if there'll be no changes, I'll entertain a motion to approve. First by Jerry and second by Mr. Presley. Thank you. Voice vote on this. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, at this point in time, if we have any citizens that would like to sign in over here at the podium to speak to any of the agenda items this evening, please do so. And we'll be able to call you up at the proper time. So at this time, we'd like to set the agenda. There is one change to the agenda this evening. We're adding Mr. Langford to the other business. Mr. Langford is with Spirit Architect, and he's researching the plans for the new jail. So do I have a motion to proceed with the agenda? Got Mr. Gregory and Jerry Ford. Second. Thank you. Voice vote for this one, please. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, at this time, we'd like to ask for Mr. McCall to give us our county mayor's report. You have the floor.
Yeah, we have 2 or 3 items and I'll bring them today on. Streetscape, we're still waiting for the final sign off from the state and TDOT on that, but that should be coming soon. On the brownfield grant, which involves 8 acres, Ward School property, we're now moving to a phase 2 EPA study, and that should be done sometime in November. The state is still not signed the final contract for the Ward School project, but we're expecting that right away. We still do have 2 years through December 31st of 2026 to finish that. A couple other items we're working on is still on the traffic light at the corner of Broadway and McMurray, but Mr. Salee told me that's real close to getting that done. We're also waiting for the final inspection on the park, and that should happen pretty soon. But as far as the state signing off on the final inspection that hasn't been done, that's an issue we need to address very quickly. Other than that, that's the way. Unless anyone has any questions for the mayor. No, thanks, sir.
Thank you. Okay, so at this juncture, committee reports. So Public Works met on October 17th. Mr. Gregory, give your report.
Yes, we got on October 17th. Minutes of the September 12th meeting was reviewed and approved. First discussion was on the playground Cliff was not here, Jerron Mitchell, Public Works was here. He stated that camera lines are ready, piping was buried, still some wires are pulled, but cameras should be ready in the coming days. One is a 360-degree camera to be placed on the pole near basketball court that will go to the basketball, tennis courts, and roadway. Another camera planned for the amphitheater. New cameras should make it easier to catch faces. We also discussed the old fence posts with names. We really hadn't come up with a concrete decision on what we want to do with them. There's some items discussed. I'm hoping the next meeting or two we can come up with maybe a concrete idea of what we want to do with that. The food season, the numbers I gave you at our last meeting was probably supposed to get some more numbers up there. Now we can see something that costs us away from that last month. Pretty solid loss at the group this year. And then we applied for the Blue Cross Park grant, but Ms. Lane received an email from Crystal Justice saying we should hear by the end of 2024 if our application is rejected. February 1st, 2025, if we are finalists for the grant. And that was about it.
Thank you. So Finance Committee met on October 21. Mr. Gully?
Yes, we met last Monday night. Went over the trustees' cash balance and financial summaries for 2024, setting roughly 25% in, 31 days. All looks good in the trustees' cash balance and financial summaries. No items were of concern. Moving on to budget amendments. In budget amendments, we've got a couple here tonight, 3 that will be fund balance draws. Fund balance portion of that, 201, one's at 111. Those are grants, but the fund balance, the grant only covers the employees' salaries. The fund balance draw portion of that is to cover the your extra, your Medicare, Medicare, sorry, your, give me a second. There's a word for Social Security. Somewhere in there, your salary supplement, your Social Security, your state retirement, and your Medicare. So salary supplement is covered in the grant. The rest of that is covered by the county. So that's why it's got fund balance for all those. And then all of those went favorable recommendations, 100% on the up there. Donation to the fire department was accepted and moved forward. The senior citizen reserves, there you see that RG, part of the grant, part of reserves, some exercise equipment, and if I understand it correctly, any employee that will be receiving their CDL licensure training in that grant when it's well approved. The 111 there is just like the 101, that's 3FG, that's just another part of the sheriff's payment in different area. I believe that was $800 per employee that completed their trainings. Certain training to a state funded grant for some trainings actually just straight supplement $800 bonus, I guess if you would. And then the schools had 2 grants and a building maintenance. And I know there was a question of building maintenance that went through. I don't know what that was for Steve.
Thank you.
Other than that, everything went through well. All those were all approved. The Finance Committee did vote to move some funds that we have, some funds sitting in 171, and some funds that are left over sitting in the 128 and 129, 127, 128, sorry, which is your lost my mind, the same thing, the 128, 129, that is the ARPA fund. There's a word I need to come up with. That's the ARPA funds. And somebody said he knows and just putting that money to work. I put it on CD for a little while. We made a little bit more right now on CD than we can on interest, on our interest on our loans. So we went to the CD route. That was voted upon, and I will be talking with CD in the next couple of days. That's it.
Thank you so much, sir. Okay, so now we're moving on to... Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. David, I'm sorry. I didn't see you there. Go ahead, sir.
Just want to let everyone know that there'll be a codes and zoning meeting on the 7th of November at 6 o'clock in the mayor's office.
Copy that. Thank you.
Will you repeat that?
So there'll be a codes and zoning subcommittee meeting at 6 o'clock on the 7th of November in the mayor's office.
Thank you. So we're going to move on now to active business appointments. You'll find those on page 12 and 13 in your packet. Emergency Communications Board. This is proposed by Emergency Communications Board. The names and terms are listed on page 13. This reflects our current members, which have term and their term lengths, which are going to be serving. So on the Emergency Communications District Board 911 Board, we have Tracy Belcher for a term of January 1, 2024 to December 31, 2028. Jimmy Anthony, same time frame, and then Bill Scruggs, same time frame.
And that is January 1st, 2025.
Yeah.
That is a typo.
Yeah, it's a typo. It's January 1st, 2025. It was a typo in the packet. All right, we have a motion, Mr. Crook,
Mr. Gregory?
and Mr. Gregory's number. All right, thank you. Just a second. Appreciate that. So moving on to Board of Equalization, this was proposed by Mike Potts and
Are you
the,
going to vote?
oh yeah, we're going to vote. I guess we're going to take a vote. So
It's a voice vote.
is a voice vote on this one? Okay, so all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, motion carried. Alrighty, so now the Board of Equalization was proposed by Mike Potts, and their names and effective term dates are also listed. They're on what would be page 12 of your packet. And so what he has here is that we have Ashley Scott, reappointment 2 years, effective September 1 of 2024. Linda Carey, reappointment second term, effective September 1, 2024. Eric Holder, reappointment 2-year term, effective November 1, 2024. And Jimmy Crabtree, reappointment 2-year term, effective November 1, 2024. Can I entertain a motion to approve? Amber and Mark Presley is the second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Motion carried. Alrighty, so we're going to move on to our resolutions here. We're going to look at Resolution 2024-17-814. You'll find that on page 16 in your packets, please. So we get over here to, yeah, page 16. And this is road names, ECD road names, Buckeye, Five Oak, Jamestown, and Lauderdale. The ECD 911 board has requested the listed names for private drives within the county. As stated in this resolution, it does not indicate that it is a county-maintained road at this time. Naming of these roads is for emergency response at this time only. Is there any questions on this? I have a motion to approve by Commissioner Gregory and a second by Landon Gully. All right, this is going to be electronic voting, so please record on your device.
Once I get there.
Sorry?
Once I get there, hold on.
Okay, she's getting there. 1 second, please.
All votes are in.
Okay,
18 yes, 1 absent.
so all votes are in. 18 yes, 1 absent, so motion carries on that. Thank you. So we're going to move on to Resolution 2024-18-815. This is on page 19 of your packets. And this is basically an explanation of the new committee assignments, new committees, and changing of members, et cetera, on them. You've had those in your packets to review for a bit. And I will say that Mayor McCall and I met 2 times for a great deal of time, both times, to review this. And if anybody has any questions or any opposition to anything,
Mr. Gregory?
Mr. Gregory?
Just one question. I know, Mr. Whitaker, I think that asked for expressed interest and hopefully the public works that did. That's what was going to ask him if that was something he's still in the city, on the public works.
Mr. Whitaker?
No, the only reason I brought it up, I showed you a poem where it's listed that I was already on there, and you said your record showed that I wasn't. And I missed that meeting, and I wondered why I wasn't informed that a meeting was even taking place. If I'm not on it, it's no problem, I just didn't know what was going on.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. Are there any further questions regarding these?
Other Gregory.
Sorry, Gregory, sorry. Yes, Mr. Gregory?
I know election's coming up for the new commissioner spot, and with whoever gets that will be placed on the committee too also.
Absolutely, absolutely. Do we have any further questions? Mr. Thomas?
I'd like to make a motion to accept these.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second by Mr. Thomas and a second by Mark Presley. All right, and this one is electronic voting as well, so if you could indicate on your devices there.
Okay, all votes are in. 18 yes, 1 absent.
Okay, so with all votes in, it's 18 yes and 1 absent, so the motion carries. So these designated in asterisks, the interim chairs, just get with Ms. Thomas to schedule a meeting for your committee to set up for an election and restructuring, if you will, please. Okay. So we're moving on to ordinances, and those are, you'll find the first pages 22 and 26. This is the public hearing. We have 2 ordinances that are up for public hearing and a second reading this month. Ordinance 310-2024-10, which is on page 22, is a rezoning on Crenshaw from A1 to R1, and then an ordinance 311-2024-11, which is on page 26, and which is the revisions to the personnel policy. So if we open the floor now for public hearing on these 2 ordinances. Is there anyone here wish to speak on this? Mr. Dudley? Okay. Motion to close the public hearing on this. Do I have a second? David Thomas, second. This is a voice vote, so all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. Motion carried. So now we have a second reading, and the second reading is regarding ordinance 310-2024-10, which is on rezoning of A1 to R1 on Crenshaw, which is page 22. The owners wish to rezone 1 acre of their 205 acres. This acre is so that their granddaughter can build a house. It's electronic. Okay, motion to approve. We have a second. All right, so this will be electronic voting. It's Mark Presley and Brian Crook and Mark Presley. Thank you. So this will record on our electronic device.
Mr. Gold. All right, all votes in. 18 yes, 1 absent.
So with all votes in, it's 18 yes and 1 absent, so this will carry. Thank you very much. So the second reading, we're moving on now to the second reading for 311-2024-11 personnel policy revisions. You're going to find this outlined on page 26 of your packet. The Personnel Committee has reviewed a few sections of the personnel policy over the past few months. There are 2 revisions being brought forward. Section 5 under item E.4 under sick leave. What this does is cleans up the verbiage and language that has the employee exhausting available leave time before leave without pay can be applied. This keeps employees from stockpiling leave. If any leave is available, then it must be taken. And then section 5 under B10 under holiday pay adding an item this is adding an item that states that if an employee is in their 6-month probationary period and had pre-planned to take time off before a holiday, this request must be filed with the supervisor and the HR office within the first week of hire in order to receive the holiday pay. And that is all on 26. All right, do we have a motion on this one? Brian Crook's got the motion, and it's second by Mr. Shane here. All right, and this will be electronic vote as well.
All votes in. 18 yes, 1 absent.
Thank you. So with all votes in, that's 18 yes with 1 absent, so motion carries. Thank you again very much. Okay, so now we're moving on to a first reading, which is Ordinance 312, 2024-12, which is rezoning R2 to R3 on Front Street. This is the first reading for Ordinance 3112, 2024-12. This request for Front Street, which is rezoning 3.25 acres from R2 medium residential to R3 high residential for future development. Mr. Gully? Second is Mr. Gregory. Thank you. So this will also be electronically voted, so we'll register.
All votes in. 18 yes, 1 absent.
All right, again, with all votes in, it's 18 yes with 1 absent, and motion carries. Thank you. All right. So now we're going to move over to budget amendments. And we have a mix of fund balances and draws, grant funding and donations. With electronic voting, we can also take these as one motion or take them as separate. So we're going to start, let's see here. We're going to start with 1013. Let me find 1013.
Mr. Thomas.
Mr. Thomas,
I'd like to make a motion that we take these all at once.
motion. Second by Mr. Whitaker. Do we need to go through each and every one of these?
What does the commission want to do?
What would the commission want to do? Would you like to go through an outline, or go through each one of these line by line, or would you like to just take them? Take them. Anybody else have any opinion? Okay, well, thank you. So at this point in time, it'll be electronic voting, so we can take these all at once. Mr. Gregory.
Just a question, do the fund balance ones need to be roll call?
With electronic voting? it's all-
With electronic voting, no. She's preparing the ballot.
All votes are in. 18 yes, 1 absent.
Okay. So with all votes in, that's 18 yes, 1 absent, and the motion carries. And thank you all again for that, your cooperation.
So we have notaries.
Yes. So at this point in time, we're going to move on to public notaries, application for approval. And here's a list of our notaries for October 28, 2024. Tracy Belcher with First National Bank, Amber Cognier with Core Civic, Brianna Garrett with Carey Brothers, Greg Lassiter with Core Civic, Fabian Sanders with Core Civic, Teresa Stith, is that it? Okay, with Core Civic, and the last one, number 7, you'll have to help me with that one. Rajanish Shuri with Core Civic. Rajanish Shuri, I think. Mr. Gully. Motion to approve, and it's second by Mr. Gregory. Thank you. It's a voice vote, so All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, motion carried. Now we're on to our other business.
Get a pen and microphone.
Okay, pen in the mic. All right, there you go. Our other business is regarding the jail project, and Jim Langford with Spirit Architects would like to show us his presentation at this point.
Does it turn on? Do I need to hold it? Does it have to hold it, or how do you turn it on?
Oh, okay.
Is it dead batteries?
Are they dead? They are energizers, but they're dead.
No.
This, here we go. Pass this one off.
That work?
Absolutely.
Good evening, my name is Jim Langford. I'm with Spirit Architecture. I am the architect for the Justice Project. I'm going to start by saying that what we're doing is a status update. So it's kind of hitting the high points and shooting past for maybe 10 or 15 minutes. However, having done this before, often it leads to a lot of questions, we get into a lot of details. I'm going to suggest now that we consider maybe having a workshop or something, and then we'll see how this goes, and that may or may not be an appropriate thing to do. Again, can everybody hear me clearly?
Just barely.
Just barely? Okay. I'll try to speak louder then. Again, what I said was that this often leads to a lot of questions, and there might be a better setting to get down into details where we can roll up our sleeves and really get into it. But let's see what we've got. Again, this is a status update as of today. For a lot of you, this is your only touch with this project. So we were contracted in August of 2022. I appeared before you about that time. As you can tell, we're going into our third year. We had a community session that some of you may remember in January of last year over in the community building. And we talked about some possibilities. Again, some of you were there. Since that time, we've done some property reviews, and we've also conducted a programming phase. So let me touch on those. Regarding the property phase, back at the summer of 2022, which is prior to Mayor McCall, as your administration changed, we looked at some properties, and this is so we looked at some properties out to the east. We looked at some properties to the north, Halltown Road, and out west, the Silver College area. Most of these lookings were drive-bys, maybe stopped and walked. It was not in-depth research. That time, then again, Mayor McCall came on board. We've also looked at some properties more closer to where the current jail in the downtown area is at. Some of them you may be aware of. We looked at maybe more closely the Holder property and some of those conversations. So again, in that time, since summer of 2022, and here we are in October of 2024, we've looked at some properties. Also, you've purchased a piece of property, Barnett piece of property. Let me stop on that. I'm going to come back to the property, but let's talk about the programming a second and how these things fit together. In a contract for an architect, there are normally 5 phases of work. Programming, schematic design, design development, contract documents, the bid process and construction administration during construction. The percentages you see there is the relative amount of work or effort or fee earned in those parts. This is a part of the contract that we signed with you again in August of 2022. Programming that you see is 5% is a component of work we've been able to execute. And there's a reason for that. As you can see here, at least those closed, those in the back, what this says is it's site generic. In other words, this work effort can be done irrespective of site selection. Beyond this first 5%, we really need to have the site defined, because after this we get into specific layouts, schematic design, programming. We jump ahead one slide. Programming is primarily a written and numerical record of the spaces needed. Often the work product is a binder. You see the photo up there? This is a copy. The mayor has one. The key users, the two clerks and the sheriff, have the program for their areas. We met with them and went through and basically defined what is needed and about how large it would be. But again, it's irrespective of the layout. It's not a floor plan that's been done officially. So again, what you can see from this is that although we're in late 2024, we've only accomplished or been able to look at 5% of the work, and our roadblock has been the site that we've been talking about and trying to tie down. So with respect to site, recently the Barnett property was purchased. If those of you that were at the January 2023 meeting, this was discussed as a possibility back at that time. You purchased this property recently. We see it as a key in that if it indeed is a part of the Justice Complex, then we, to an extent, moved in a direction in terms of locating it. It's not going to be out east where the new bridge is coming in. It's not going to be out by Sulphur. We've sort of defined an area, at least at the moment, we're taking a serious look at. With that in mind, that gives you a certain amount of information, but not very much. So what we did to be useful is we took the program that sort of defines that overall the sheriff's office needs these things and will be about this size footprint. If we do the clerk's offices, each would need to be about this size and be this footprint. We went ahead and did a for instance. And what you see here in this for instance is that the Barnett property would hold a jail and sheriff's office that's roughly the scope of the CCAS master plan recommendation and the programming information that we produced. It will fit the Barnett site if configured in this particular way. To arrive at this configuration, we went ahead and jumped ahead and developed a floor plan of a for instance of what it might look like. And so it fills up that particular site. And we're going to need off-site parking, but at this location, you do have the advantage of a good bit of parking surrounding at the park on the east side of Marlene, and then across the street where the Justice Center is currently at. There is parking available, but this would require that because basically the building fills the site. In this layout, the housing component is technically 2 stories, or sort of like this room, if you call that a second story. Or if that's a mezzanine, then the housing part is ground floor mezzanine. The support area, that's in green, and the sheriff's office in blue, is 1 story. One of the questions floating around has been, just like a house, can we go multi-story? There, technically yes, but there are issues with it. If we can get some additional property, I think you all will probably be ahead dollar-wise and certainly operational for the different functions. But that's something that might bear some additional conversation. I stuck this slide in here to show on the roof of a detention facility, there's specialized air handling equipment, mechanical equipment. If you think about trying to stick something on top of that, we've got to deal with these units, move them, do something with them. There's cost associated with this. This is in general the most economical approach. Put the air right on top, dump it down through the roof of the housing units. A lot of technical things. Again, to come back, maybe a workshop, talk about some of those things. We've done this before, but if possible, spending a few dollars more to get some additional property, I would believe would be in your best interest, and I've been at this a while. So for the moment, let's just set that aside, but it is a topic. Again, this particular layout fills the site when it's this particular configuration in this site. As we did that January meeting, looking around, there's some additional pieces of property. I call this is a strip of the whole property that's 90 feet deep, which is essentially the depth of the Taylor property. And so I've suggested to the mayor to get that Holder property, get that 90 feet. We really want that. We talked about getting the Taylor property, and I even mentioned trying to be creative. If this, the coffee shop, if they'd be willing to do some trading, give some property here in exchange, if this is to be parking, or maybe we can give them some parking if we get this property, that gives us a better block of land to be able to use. Again, I'm making suggestions. What allows the different configuration. I'm going to go to a blow up of this a little bit. So now again, here in yellow again is the Barnett property, once you have purchased. Here's that 90-foot of Holder property that I'm coveting for you. The Taylor property. It requires a totally different configuration. The sheriff's office, jail support faces a different direction. It's configured totally differently, but it allows for the courts to be possibly placed here, whether you do a double phase or because of cost in recent days, you decide it's a future phase. That's a decision yet to be made, again, with a workshop. But the key to this is that depending on exactly how and which pieces of property you obtain, it affects how much you can do and what the configuration of those things are. Not necessarily the gross square footage, but how they're shaped, how you come into them. None of these floor plans have been reviewed with the users yet. The reason being is these are mere conjectures or merely going in a particular direction depending on what the footprint might actually turn out to be. And so tying that down really becomes, again, as I mentioned earlier, something that's important to do. Another suggestion I made was the Taylor property that's here, that's right behind the coffee shop. If you took the square footage of that property, could you offer to trade it with the coffee shop for a sliver on their east? So that instead of their parking over here for the coffee shop, they park here and you, the county, could use it, and it would allow more flexibility for how these phases and buildings might go in and how the drives would work. We're still going to need off-site parking, but we wouldn't need as much. You see, we can get some parking on this site. And there's a lot of little details that go into this. A roll up the sleeves kind of session might be useful. Kind of coming back to the end, of the 100% of work that you would eventually have us do, we've been able to accomplish 5% the program. We've tried to jump ahead on a couple things to give you an idea of how important time down the site is. But beyond that, we need direction. And you all need to make some decisions. And to do that, you need information and we need to work out some details. Defining property as needed would be useful. Now I'm going to just open it up for questions. Yes, sir.
How many beds are you looking at?
The program that, in the study that Jim Hart-Seacast did for you all was in the 125 to 145 range. That's roughly what we're assuming here. That's what the program is roughly based around. Something, again, I go into detail. When you look at this housing configuration, some of you may remember, I know the sheriff does and the mayor maybe, we talked about the apple pie. For those of you that have not heard that before, this is not your mom's apple pie. It is the idea of the most economical way to control inmates while conserving the expense on staff. Because your biggest expense is staffing. Over 30 years of that jail, or this jail, if it's built, your biggest expense is going to be staffing, not the building. Not even if we spend $20 or $30 million for it. That's not your cost. Your cost is in staffing. That's what we want to look and minimize. So I say all that coming back to your question about housing. This housing, you see the floor plan there, is 3/4 of an apple pie. So it's about 140 or so, with the ability to fill in those other pie slices in the future. And ideally, we get some additional property, we can add other pie slices. You all are a donut county to Davidson County. It's not totally here yet, but you know what's coming. So when your grandkids or your kids are in your position, they're going to want to know how this thing can expand because they're going to need to know that. That's one of the reasons, Mr. Gregory, about that land right across the street. It's limited in how it can expand long term. So if you can, for the same dollars, get someplace where you have that ability to expand, you'll be dollars well off years in the future. So at any rate, let me shut up. Any other questions?
With that last thing you just said.
The ability, if in looking at this site, if we can get this additional land and also be looking at the possibility of maybe one day you relocate the park, because a park is not super expensive in terms of infrastructure, allows this complex to be able to expand. And so that right now you're thinking maybe 1 or 2 courts. In 20 or 30 years, there's going to be a population growth. It's going to happen. You're not Williamson County yet, but it's coming around, and the roads are being built. So I would be remiss if I'm not saying to you, with the same dollars, let's try to get land where we have some available properties around us. That opportunity is here. So that's kind of what I was saying. Yes, sir.
The option that they have on the screen right now, say we get that, how are we accessing that for the parking while going through county-owned property?
Now say that again.
Like, on the screen there, the number 2, you've got where would be parking in theory.
Right there. Okay.
How are we accessing that? Because it looks like
What you see here is a drive coming off of Main, but we would also, I would hope, to be able to have an access from the Holder side. And then the other part is how this side that we're saying, okay, let's trade some with the coffee shop, how that parking would be developed. Maybe they're consistent in terms of being able to access both through there, where there's some shared parking. So again, this is just a quick concept to show you how much space it would take over. All this would adjust based on what we actually got. Not every details we totally thought through, but we've thought through pretty good. And that's not going to be enough, but I think with some of this other parking across the street, it would be certainly adequate. Yes, ma'am?
It would be adequate even on court days?
That's the whole point. The rest of the time, it wouldn't really matter.
Jim, could I make a couple of points, things that we discussed
Yes, sir.
for the information in court? When we initially talked about the Barnett property, and I asked him, what can we build there? It's basically the jail. And we talked, Jim, you correct me if I'm wrong, somewhere in the neighborhood of 21 to 25 million is what we're talking about. If we acquire this other property, and the reason I haven't approached Mr. Holder at this point is because he's in a health issue, and it's just not, the timing's not right. But and I understand through law enforcement that their preference would be to have your courtroom and your records on that, in that same proximity rather than across the street. And Jim, I understand if we were to expand this land situation and be able to build the jail with the court and the records there, that we'd be talking in the neighborhood of 30 to 35 million. Is that close?
Yes, sir. Am I still on?
Yes.
If you said to me, what's my ballpark right now, what you said is right in line. 20, 25 million for the jail and sheriff's office, and that's because we haven't totally set all the parameters, we haven't defined all the details, and then probably another 10 or so for the courts area, which is gets you into that 30 to 35 that you just mentioned. So, yes. Just parenthetically, for what it's worth, in the last 4 to 5 years since COVID, what we've seen is almost a doubling in construction costs. Now, what that means for detention facilities is back in 2019, let's say, detention facilities were around $350 to $400 a square foot. Justice space, courtrooms, office space, what, $200 to $250. Today, we're probably talking about this ballpark budgeting. We're talking close to $900 a square foot for the detention space, and office space is in the $400 to $500 a square foot range. And what I don't know right now is when you say what's it going to cost, then my question is when are you going to buy the F-150? If you're going to move forward deliberately here and we bid it, say next spring, I believe what I just said to you will hold. But if we do what we've done for whatever reasons, and we go another year or two, then those numbers will have to adjust. Just like I've got recorded at the January meeting of last year, we were talking about maybe 20 to 25 for at least one of the courts also. But that's how much costs have changed. And what we have found is that here recently, in the last 6 months or so, the costs have leveled off. They haven't gone down, but they have leveled off.
If the new jail was complete and we were able to clear the lot where the current jail is, would that not ease some of the parking issues
Yes, sir.
significantly?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Is the jail chief proposing that the male and female?
Are you asking if this houses male and female?
Yes.
Yes, sir. That's what we're assuming. Now, if we did a workshop or something like that, I keep going to, we can pull all this information out, have some donuts and coffee, go through the square footage, just talk about what all those pieces are, and then in looking at some of these properties, talk about some what ifs. But if it's not needed, you feel like you've gotten enough information here, that's fine too. Any other questions? You getting tired of looking at me? There's a World Series game going on.
There is.
Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it back to you.
Well, thank you, Jim. This has been very helpful. I hope everybody has gained a little bit more insight on this. And I do appreciate you coming out here to show us this. I know we've had discussions before, along with, the mayor and several of us have with this. This is a can that's been kicked down the road. We're going to have to pick it up, so we're going to have to get serious about looking at this. I will clarify is that, we can't count on parking over in the Holder property. That has to be discounted at this point. Is something that we just can't count on, so we have to look at other alternatives. And like Mayor said, Mr. Holder is not the best of health right now. He's got some things going on. It's not a good time to approach him about anything. Let's let the dust clear on that. Let's see how that settles out before we try and go forward on that. And remember that the amount of square footage that we have in that parcel that we did purchase, it will fit. And we can move forward knowing that it will fit. It's going to be tight. It's going to be tough. I mean, we got to look at all other avenues, and I do recommend that we do have a work session to look at this and explore all options because, like we've talked about, Mayor and I and everybody has, is that this can has been kicked down the road a long time. And if we don't pick it up, like he just said, it's going to cost us a whole lot more money, and it's going to cost us a whole lot more money in the near future. Mr. Ford.
The question I got, I heard 3 or 4 figures, but I didn't understand exactly what you said. You said 20 to 25, and did you not say 25 to 30 at the end?
I'll just be loud. What I said at the end were the numbers that we talked about in January of last year.
What about what we're talking about right now?
Right now, if we're talking just the jail and the sheriff's office, I think we're talking, as the mayor said, probably 20 to 25. And then if we put the courts, probably another 10 million. Again, we make some assumptions about what that means. Right now, what we program is 2 courts, 2 clerk's offices with their storage. But the conversation has been, maybe we just move one of the courts and one of the clerks across the way, and that one of these, if we can do something configured like this, because again, that's dependent on certain things, that one of these would be the current phase and the other be a future phase. So there's some ways to break this up to affect that cost too.
Given what the mayor said about not being a good time to approach Mr. Holder, would it be possible maybe if we did the first configuration that was just jail only, or jail support, sheriff office as a phase 1, then if we decide to approach Mr. Holder and get that back piece, make that back piece could we configure the courts into a back piece as a phase 2?
Yes, sir. We can define, this is what we've got for phase 1, and this is what we will pursue for phase 2, that we could set things up, sort of a master plan that can go from A to B to C over time. Yes. We just need to define that for ourselves.
Okay. That seems to me like that might be the best way to go at this point. I don't know anybody else thinks.
I think in a way that is what the chairman was saying.
Absolutely. Thanks. So, I don't know, but I think the consensus would be, not speaking for everybody here, please by all means speak up, but I think it would be in our best interest to try and set up a work session to literally go through and take this thing apart, dissect it, and make some sense so that we can make a concrete, more well-founded decision going forward and get ourselves a game plan before it costs us yet again even more money. So we do have to be proactive. I don't want to be reactive and try to figure out what we're going to do in the future. We need to be proactive and take care of it in the near future. Sorry?
How soon can we do that?
Well, we'll have to get with Mr. Mayor and Mr. Langford here and see what we can come up with. But we need to come up with a work session. I know we're dark in December, but it may not hurt to have a work session in the near future. Maybe we could get together, find a game plan, and float it out to everybody and see if we just can't come up with a solution. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
Let's schedule.
Amen, I hear you. All righty. So we'll work on that. We'll get an answer. All right. Do we have anybody signed in for public comment this evening?
No.
Okay. Real quick before we do adjourn, I want to thank everybody this evening that came out. I appreciate your patience with me. This is my first meeting sitting up here. And I said this before, I'd be totally remiss if I told you that it wasn't somewhat intimidating, because it is. I'll get through this. I'll tighten up the reins here a little bit, and things will move a little better. But I appreciate each and every one of you. As far, again, regarding those subcommittee assignments, Jack and I went over that at great length. And his wishes are what you're seeing on the paper. We made a few rubs here and there. We merged a few things to try and be able to establish a quorum a little more effectively. But by and large, that is how we arrived at what we have. Again, reminder that anybody that's listed as a interim chair, let's try and schedule meetings so that we can structure and have our elections to get our new people in place for this upcoming year as soon as we can. I mean, obviously with the holidays coming up, there may be some things that get in the way, but we can get started on that as soon as we can. And so if anybody else, we don't have anything else, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Jerry and Mr. Gregory. All right, motion to adjourn. Thank you.